Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, entitled guy demanded my window seat for an 11-hour flight to Cairo. Kyle makes his poor planning an emergency for other people. Entitled mom in Kane's drive-thru. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled guy demanded my window seat for an 11-hour flight to Cairo. This was a while back, but an excellent example of sheer entitlement. Flight from New York to Cairo, the seat configuration was 3 rows of seats. 2 window and aisle on each side with 4 or 5 middle seats in the center. I had a window over a wing. I chose the seat with sleep in mind many months in advance. While I do frequently travel, I'm not going to pretend I often jet away to Egypt, so this vacay was very planned out. I was settled into my seat when my aisle mate approached his and asked if I'd be willing to switch with his wife so the two of them could sit together. The two of them seemed to be with a group of similar-aged travelers. It appeared to me based on chatter that it may have been some kind of group tour, knowing the industry, and that the organizers may have been negligent in seat assignments. I was absolutely willing to consider a swap if the seat was comparable. So naturally I asked where his wife's seat was. He pointed, and she waved at me from the center of the middle seats. "No, sorry, I'm going to keep my seat," was my response. Instead of switching out with a middle seat person, who I'm sure would have been delighted to take an aisle, so he could sit next to his wife, he sits down in his seat and started trying to argue with me. How the view is bad anyway since it's over the wing, I won't see anything since it's mostly overnight and dark, etc. I just reply I plan to sleep against it and decline again. I'm trying to be pleasant, I'm a pleaser, and I'm stuck next to this guy. He continues to bug me like the mosquito he may have been in a former life, and asked me, if you had a husband, wouldn't you want to sit with him? At this point, I'm totally irritated. I stated that I do have a husband, and if my husband and I were traveling together, I'd not only ensure our seats were assigned together, but if they weren't, I'd give up my aisle and go sit with my spouse in the middle. He then shut up with direct comments, but grumbling persisted throughout the flight, just not to my face as he pretended to ignore my existence. Perfect ending. He was still grumbling when we deplaned. He continues to bug me like the mosquito he may have been in a former life. I just love that sentence. Thanks. If you had a husband, wouldn't you want to sit with him? If he was anything like you, I'd rather be seated away from him. Kyle makes his poor planning an emergency for other people. I had just missed the morning rush at a place we'll call Genius Bagel. There were about 5 or 6 people waiting for their orders, as well as mobile order customers drifting in and out. The staff were processing things smoothly, and the cashier stepped back to help. Entitled Kyle stomped in about 2 seconds after the cashier went to help. He stood at the register and huffed, then slammed his palm on the display case. I just need a cold brew. Fast. My Uber will be here in 2 minutes. Sir, you have to order at the register. It's right there. There's no one there and I just need a cold brew. He looked at his phone and huffed and puffed some more. My Uber is almost here. I just need a cold brew. Hurry. He proceeded, as Kyles and Karens are wont to do, to criticize the staff at every turn. Why weren't they hurrying? They were hurrying. Why were they doing this? Why were they doing that? He just needed a cold brew and no one was doing anything. One of the employees, who was an absolute sweetheart, gave him a look second only to the silencing look my mother gave only in extreme circumstances. Sir, we are trying to help you, and we are moving as fast as we can while also fulfilling orders for customers who ordered before you. But I just need a cold brew and you people aren't giving it to me. There. The employee placed the precious cold brew by the register as I silently prayed they wouldn't give it to him for free just to get him out of there. That fool Kyle tried to act like he didn't know how to use the debit machine. The employee walked him through it. Kyle thanked her and left. I hope he goes through a series of Uber drivers taking then canceling his rides. Makes note, cancel Kyle's ride. Staff made a mistake getting him his cold brew before people who ordered before him were served. They were teaching him that getting loud and demanding priority service will move him to the head of the line. He had called for an Uber, which means he knows how to place an order over an app. He could have placed a mobile order for his coffees. No cold brew for you, come back 1 year. I love the saying, poor planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. I love the saying, looks like you done messed up. When I worked at a bagel place, I could not count how many times people would yell at my back, I didn't want that toasted. I didn't order that. Why are you making it like that? Yeah, dude. I know you ordered an everything bagel with schmear, but guess what? The people clearly in line before you ordered this chicken salad sandwich that I'm making. So self-centered. Entitled mom in Cane's drive-thru. So one day I decided I wanted some Cane's chicken. I drive on down to my local Cane's and get into a rather long drive-thru line. No worries, turned on a podcast and I was ready. So this line ended up taking around 30 to 45 minutes to get to the window, and they have cones set up to form the line. Once you were in the line almost to the first window, you couldn't just drive out of the line because of the cone setup. Around minute 20, the owner of a small car gets out of his vehicle and moves a cone over just enough for his car to fit. He then graciously backs up and drives through the exit he created. But then, at minute 25, this mom in a Range Rover who was now directly behind me also decides she wants to leave. She makes a 5-point turn, runs right over 2 cones that get stuck under her car. Backs up, hits 2 more cones. At this point, I was just baffled. I throw my car into park and head over to the broken cones. I move the cones personally out of the way and say, "You didn't think to move the cones?" She looks at me incredulously and goes, "Well, they put these cones here, how are we supposed to leave?" I say, "Luckily, they aren't cemented to the road, so you can move them out of the way instead of breaking the property of the establishment you're at." I get back in my car. This lady does not leave the line. It started to move the moment I got back in my car. I was just so blown away at how she was willing to run over several cones to try to leave, but then just stayed in the line. Ack. You broke her. LOL. She was too confused to leave. LOL, I must have. She looked very deer in headlights and her daughter unfortunately looked embarrassed. But how was the chicken? Rating out of 10? If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.